Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the New York Women's Foundation Celebrating Women Breakfast. Let's get the celebration started with Legacy Women.
Your freedom song in perpetuity, your progeny, the stone of truth and justice. Yeah. I call out to you from beyond, you above and below, from my past, in my core. Let your freedom song deafen me. Yeah, yeah. I invoke you today through my fists and my feet and my drum. May your midnight hue and your fiery heart blaze my way through the darkness in the eye of this storm. Madre! May your hips part the multitude of violence so that none will suffer where I dwell, none will hunger where I stand, none will dim where I sing, none will cry where I sleep, none will carry another man's poison. Oh, great mother, bounty of strength, may your machete strike down ill intent, and your tsunami of love wash over us, eternal. Somo no somo.
Somo.
Ache, 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 ache.
Bambula, si cama con 10.
Bambula,
Bambula, si cama con 10.
Bambula,
Bambula, si cama con 10.
Bambula,
Bambula, pa' los ancestros.
Bambula,
Bambula, pa' las mujeres. Bambula, pa' nuestra hermana. Bambula, de comunidad. Bambula, para que bailen. Bambula, para que gocen. Bámbula de nuestro ancestro. Bámbula de las mujeres. Bámbula de nuestra hermana. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula para despojarse. Bámbula para bailar. Bámbula para cantar. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula para despojarse. Bámbula para bailar. Bámbula para llorar. Bámbula de toda mi gente. Suenen bien los cueros. Bailen bien mi bomba. Bomba de comunidad. Bomba para mi pueblo. Bomba para mi gente. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bailen mi bomba. Canten bien mi bomba. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10. Bámbula si cama con 10.
Please welcome the New York Women's Foundation's co-chairs of the Board of Directors, Kwanzaa Butler and Janet Riccio.
Good morning, everyone. Wasn't Legacy Women amazing? I am Kwanzaa Butler, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Celebrating Women Breakfast. We are so grateful to have you here bright and early. This morning, we will celebrate the work of our brilliant honorees, Lorie, Kimberlé, and Tarana, and the work of the Foundation's fierce grantee partners. Absolutely. Many of them are seated on stage, and many are in the audience. I'd like to ask them all to stand. Before you are amazing leaders who are working every single day to make New York City more just and safe for underinvested women and families who depend on them. They transform lives, neighborhoods, and our cities. Their work is more urgent, more needed than ever. We thank them for their radical generosity.
Thank you, Kwanzaa, and good morning, everyone. I'm Janet Riccio, and I want to thank you all for supporting the incredible work of the New York Women's Foundation. The foundation is now 31 years old, and this is its 31st breakfast celebration. At the first event, Celebrating Women Breakfast, the foundation announced it was giving $50,000 to 4 organizations. I am so proud to say that today, that number is $8 million to 128 grantee partner organizations. These organizations work tirelessly to make gender, racial, and economic justice a reality for the women of New York. Our grant making places us at the top of women's foundations in the United States and second in the world, although I think we're second to none. Our success is made possible by you. Since the foundation was founded, we have always known that when women come together, we are an unstoppable force. By being here and supporting the foundation, you are taking action for the women of New York City. We thank you for your radical generosity. Now, I'd like to introduce a very special guest. Please welcome to the stage Jessica Spaulding, owner of the Harlem Chocolate Factory.
Hey. It's too early. I'm classy after 11. Okay. So, some of you might remember me. 2 years ago, I stood on this stage and I told you of how I combined my love for Harlem with my love for chocolate and created the Harlem Chocolate Factory. I told you about how I was supported by the foundation's grantee partner, Start Small, Think Big, whoop, whoop. Okay, to make my dream a reality. It was a momentous day for me. And by momentous, I mean insane. I had to have made some kind of impression with you guys because I woke up the next day to over 300 emails from so many of you women, you amazing women in the audience. You were all so supportive, but made it very clear that you all wanted chocolate. I wasn't able to handle the interest I received. It was a blessing and a curse. At the time, I thought my store was gonna be up and running, and it's been quite a journey. I've learned that there are many aspects of building a business that you just cannot control. But there was one thing I could always control: not giving up. I have never, ever given up, even when I wanted to. That's something I believe I have in common with the women on this stage today and in the audience. I am proud to finally say Harlem Chocolate Factory opens on February 14, 2018. Yeah. Ew. Each of you has a little box of chocolates in your gift bag. Ew. And if you want more, come see me at 2363 Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard or at www.harlemchocolatefactory.com. Okay. I genuinely want to thank the foundation for keeping in touch with me all the time and for doing business with me. Yeah, they pay for those chocolates. And for their radical generosity. Enjoy your taste of Harlem and come see me uptown. Bye.
Please welcome artist, philanthropist, New York Women's Foundation's board alumna, and 2017 Vision Award recipient, Ann Delaney.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to present the New York Women's Foundation Philanthropic Vision Award to the New York Community Trust and its first female president, Lorie Slutsky. There are so many reasons to celebrate the trust and its excellent work supporting nonprofits in New York City. One of those reasons is to recognize Lorie for her 4 decades-long commitment there, serving as president for 28 of those years, where she's not only shown steadfast dedication, but has also made sure that there are more opportunities for women at the trust and beyond. When there are women leaders at the helm, we don't have to explain the importance of funding for women and girls. To set the record straight, the trust is not just a sleepy parking lot for endowments. And even for those of you who are familiar with it, you may not know the significant impact it has had on our most pressing issues. Under Lorie's leadership, the Trust initiatives support the Fund for New Immigrants, which helps new arrivals navigate changing policies. In the 1980s, they were one of the first to give research dollars for the AIDS epidemic. And in support of our city students, they have funded the long-running Campaign for Fiscal Equity, an ongoing battle with the state for educational dollars. And when New York faces a crisis, the Trust is quick to respond. After Hurricane Sandy, they stepped in to aid our hardest-hit communities. On September 11th, they established the 9/11 Fund the very same day. Under Lorie's expert financial stewardship, the Trust has tripled their assets and given support to nearly 5,000 nonprofit organizations in New York. And last year alone, their grants totaled $223 million. Lorie and her team are reliable, always responsive to New Yorkers, and always available to us at the foundation. We think of them as our trusted thought partner, our big sister, an organization for which we have a bond rooted in our shared values. We have joined them in their Workforce Collaborative Fund, and they have joined us in support of girls and young women of color. And we both belong to the Early Childhood Partners Fund, which prepares our youngest children for pre-K and beyond. In fact, the Trust will be an important next funder for many of our grantee partners. Her colleagues describe her as direct, generous, a real financial whiz, and the person who gets the job done. It is a tremendous honor to present both the Philanthropic Vision Award as well as a citation for philanthropy and community service from City Council Deborah Rose. Please welcome to the podium Lorie Slutsky.
Morning. And thank you for that gracious introduction. It's a privilege to be recognized by this great foundation, which has been so important to women. I am honored to share this morning's awards with Tarana Burke and Kimberlé Crenshaw, whose extraordinary accomplishments you will hear more about shortly. Of course, when you work for a foundation that gives away more than $200 million each year, let's be honest, it's not hard to find people willing to say nice things about you. But given the reputation of the New York Women's Foundation and the caliber of all the people in this room, I am indeed honored and humbled. And as anyone who knows me has heard, I really do not believe this honor is about me, but more about the extraordinary organization I am lucky enough to lead. The New York Community Trust, as you've heard, has significant resources, an outstanding staff, and a dedicated board, all of whom share a love for this city and a desire to make it better for all. Today, I am reminded that we stand on the shoulders of others who have gone before us. Reading the names of your previous honorees, I was struck by the long list of illustrious New York women and how fortunate I have been to work with so many of them. But the name of one stands out for me. She was Barbara Scott Preskel, and I'd like to tell you a short story about her and me that illustrates how far I think we've come. I started my career at the Trust as a junior program officer, and I was promoted over the years. When I became COO in 1987, the chair of the board, an eminent senior partner at a white shoe law firm, took me to lunch. Even as he praised my work, he warned that I would never become president. And he leaned forward and he said, "Never," again, just for emphasis. I pressed him as to why, and he responded, and this is a quote, "We need someone who looks good in a tuxedo." Well, fast forward 3 years. I was appointed president of the New York Community Trust at age 36. That was during a time when you could count the number of large foundations led by women on one hand. and still have a finger or two left over. And that wasn't all. Our new chair was an accomplished lawyer. Yes, it was Barbara Scott Preskel. Not only our first woman chair, but our first African-American chair. A question quickly arose that had never been asked before when we were led by men. How would these two aggressive, assertive New York women get along? Would they clash? Well, truth be told, we did clash. At our first board meeting, Barbara arrived in a haze of purple, and I was dressed in red. The head of the table was a cacophony of clashing colors, in contrast to the staid blue and gray pinstripes that had dominated for decades. But Barbara inspired me. Thank you. Barbara inspired me. Barbara inspired me and mentored me, and yes, sometimes even mothered me. But together, we built the trust into an anchor for New York philanthropy and a powerful engine for good. So here I am today at a $3 billion community foundation. My senior team of 9 consists of 8 women. And our dynamic chairman, yes, a woman who's here this morning, Valerie, thank you for coming. So, some of our most generous donors at the Trust are women too. Consider Mildred Anna Williams. She made a major gift to the Trust in 1940 to help girls and young women. Of course, at the time, the great names in philanthropy were John, Andrew, and Henry. That is, John Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and Henry Ford. But we worked anyway. Since 1940, we've used Miss Williams' gift to provide tens of millions of dollars to hundreds of efforts to girls and young women across the city so that they can realize their potential. These grants range from increasing access to reproductive health services, to building technology skills, to ending child marriage in New York State, and I could go on, but I won't. I spoke this morning about 2 women from very different backgrounds who didn't know each other, Barbara Scott Preskel and Mildred Anna Williams. They made a difference, just as each and every one of you this morning in this room are making a difference. And together, we must continue our work to ensure the next generation of girls and women stand on ever stronger shoulders. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I need some citations.
Okay, can I didn't even ask.
Yeah, I'll take this for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Please welcome Say Her Name activist Rhanda Dormeus and Tony Award-winning playwright, activist, and 2003 Celebrating Women Award recipient Eve Ensler to the stage.
Good morning. I have to set my timer because there's so many things I can say about this woman, so I'm gonna set my timer right now. Okay, so again, my name is Rhanda Dormeus, and on August 1st, 2016, my daughter Corinne was killed by Baltimore County Police in front of her 5-year-old son, who was also hit twice. My daughter's name was Corinne Gaines. A few months after Corinne was taken from us, I was invited to come to New York City for a Say Her Name event by Dr. Crenshaw. I call her Doc, so if I slip up and say Doc, don't look ill of me. She's my doctor. I learned about Kim from Dr. Kim from Gina Best. She is a good friend of mine whose daughter was also killed by police, and her daughter was named India Kager. If you didn't know, Black women and girls are only 13% of the female population in the United States. But they account for more than 1/3 of all women shot to death by police. That's crazy. In creating the Say Her Name campaign, Dr. Crenshaw has brought together family members of Black women killed by police to share testimonies, build political power, and organizing skills, but most importantly, she has created a way for us to keep their names and their memories alive. We are and I'm speaking for me, I am so grateful for Dr. Kim, for all of her support. She's given us a platform, and I mean, she just gets the word out. She's a fighter to the end. Through Say Her Name, we make sure stories like Corinne's are included in demands for justice, policy changes to police violence, and media representation of victims of police brutality. Dr. Kim, Lord, Dr. Kim has witnessed our deepest pain. She has become our rock. For many of us, for me especially. I know the mothers in this movement feel the same way about her. She keeps us going. We consider her family, so it is my honor to be here for Dr. Kim. Raymond? Okay. All right. Okay. It is to the, thank you. Finally, I'd like to say, because I'm over my 3 minutes, of course, Dr. Kim is my rock, my platform, and my support team. Thank you. Now, Ensler is up next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love you. Love you. I have the distinguished honor and pleasure of presenting my dear colleague, sister, comrade, troublemaker, and friend, Kimberlé Crenshaw, with the Celebrating Women Award. For those of you who don't know Kimberlé Crenshaw, and I can't imagine there are many of you who don't, she is a wonder. Scholar, activist, advocate, and an incredible legal mind. She's the co-founder of the African American Policy Forum, now in its 21st year, which I proudly sit on the board of. Its mission is to build bridges between scholarly research and public discourse in addressing inequality and discrimination. Kim is truly one of the smartest people I have ever known. A tenured professor at both UCLA School of Law and Columbia Law School. She's a leading scholar of critical race theory and examination of society and culture, looking at the intersection of race, law, and power. When we look back at this period in history, it will be evident how Kim's profound contributions as an intellectual and a visionary have shaped our thinking and the transformation of the strategies and evolutions of our movements. She is the architect of the groundbreaking theory of intersectionality, a frame that examines the intersections between forms of systems of oppression, domination, discrimination. Intersectionality to describe the web of structural obstacles and inequalities faced by women, minorities, and others. This frame, as you all know, has widely proliferated, been used and adopted to all of our benefit across the entire political spectrum as an approach to social justice advocacy and theory. As she said herself, intersectionality is that broad frame which allows people to see problems as institutional rather than individual so that real solutions can be found. Kim argued that the historical amnesia surrounding Black women's history further contributes to racist patriarchy. She has recently drawn attention to the activist organization founded by Reese Taylor and Rosa Parks, the foundation of the Montgomery bus boycott, but which itself has been forgotten. This is an example of the way the quiet, courageous, and often thankless work of Black women is erased and overshadowed. Kim said, "The dismantling of the racist patriarchy therefore requires communities to remember forgotten history and to advocate for all of their members instead of some, even at risk of being told we're not good allies just because we insist on justice for all." Kim argued that allies must elevate the voices of Black women to help break the cycle of invisibility created when Black women cannot vocalize the problems they faced. Her TED Talk on intersectionality has received over 1 million views. She has won many awards, but this year was awarded the prestigious Gittler Prize, hosted by Brandeis University International Center. It's the first and one of the largest academic prizes awarded to a U.S. or international scholar for outstanding and lasting scholarly contributions to racial, ethnic, and religious relations. The quite unusual thing about Kim is that she is an extraordinary intellectual and a woman who puts her life on the line for others. She's a brainy activist. I have been with her at vigils, marches, speak-outs, town hall meetings, panels, radical performances in cafes and clubs. I know no one more dedicated to the protection, elevation, and recognition of Black, cisgendered, transgendered, and gender nonconforming women. This is her deepest passion, and she is unrelenting, fierce, and courageous in her pursuit of justice and equality. She once said, "The empowerment of Black women constitutes the empowerment of our entire community," and I believe no truer words can be said. From the creation of her Say Her Name campaign, which the name is now part of our lexicon, bringing light to what had up until then been the invisible and unpublicized murders of Black women by the police, providing a platform for the mothers of murdered daughters to register their outrage and sorrow, and her creating her Dream Deferred, a series of offering substantive analysis on the status of Black women and girls in the U.S. She has set the standard for high-level and deep-diving discourse and is constantly seeking ways to build bridges between issues and groups, between research and policy, between thought and action. Lorraine Hansberry once said, "The whole realm of morality and ethics has escaped the attention of women by and large, and it needs the attention of intellectual women most desperately." We honor and celebrate Kim Crenshaw for the depth, generosity, and radical radiance of her attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Eve. Thank you, Rhonda. Not only for those kind words, but for the privilege of working with you over the years and for the trust that you've placed in us. And what an honor it is to share this special morning with Tarana and Lorie. I want to thank them for the work they've done, and I want to thank everyone at the New York Women's Foundation, and especially Anna. Muito obrigada for everything. There are so many people on whose shoulders I stand, and many of them are here today. At our table is our wonderful staff, our teaching artists, members of our board, and friends of the organization. And in addition to being extraordinarily proud to be part of the New York Women's Foundation's family, we're also honored to be counted among the families of the Novo Foundation and the Open Society Foundation. Also here with me in spirit is my mother, Marion Crenshaw. I am a proud mama's girl of a fierce race woman who began her career of defiance at age 3 by integrating the local swimming pool. This was just one of the many acts of resistance that I would learn about at her knee. She was a school teacher in Canton, Ohio for 50 years. And I'm most proud when people tell me that the apple didn't fall far from the tree. It's the compliment I cherish the most of any in this world. And I want to acknowledge also the co-founder of the African American Policy Forum, Dr. Luke Harris. I met Luke in 1991 when we were looking for black men to support a black woman who had been courageous enough to tell the world about what a Supreme Court nominee had done to her. Now, when that nominee denounced her testimony as a high-tech lynching, effectively naming this woman as an accomplice to a racist act, we put out a call to black men to come to Washington, D.C. and to speak up. Only 2 men showed up that next day, and Luke was one of them. He told everyone who would listen that a black woman telling the truth is not a lynching. Unfortunately, too few people heeded Luke's warning. That nominee went on to be confirmed. Many who might have opposed that nominee were corralled by this lynching accusation. It worked against a black woman because black women's histories of sexual abuse have never been framed as a symbol of racial injustice, nor has it been framed as a touchstone for solidarity. And many of our feminist allies, understandably appalled by that manipulation, simply denied that race had anything to do with harassment. That was also untrue. What contributed to this debacle was intersectional failure, a widespread ignorance about the long history of black women's leadership in creating sexual harassment law. Women like Sandra Bundy, Michelle Vincent, and Pamela Price. All of us, women, people of color, the nation as a whole, we have suffered as a consequence of this confirmation that gave a 5th deciding vote that weakens our capacity to fight for justice. A vote that gutted the Voting Rights Act, that hollowed out campaign finance reform, that repudiated key elements of the Violence Against Women Act. I could keep counting all the way to 45. The moral of this story is that intersectional failures hurt us all. But let's imagine a different possibility grounded in the intersection of feminism and anti-racism. What if we'd have known about Recy Taylor, the black woman who was gang raped in 1944, who insisted on justice, who, along with another courageous black woman, founded an organization that became the backbone of the Montgomery bus boycott? That woman who stood beside Recy Taylor, the one who refused to be silent, the same woman who refused to go to the back of the bus 11 years later, that woman was Rosa Parks. See, contrary to what we've been told, Parks didn't give up her seat just because her feet were tired. She wasn't a quiet seamstress who merely stumbled onto history. She was a social activist who cut her teeth resisting the oppression of black women. So it is in that spirit that we founded AAPF, on the belief that leadership from the margins changes things, that lifting up the stories fills the gaps between our movements, that intersectionality is not an empty buzzword, it's a real coalitional practice. So what that means for us over the last 20 years is that black girls matter, which is why we can't wait for our leaders, our lovers, our husbands, our sons to recognize that we are in crises too, that Moynihan was dead wrong, that the strength of our women is not our community's weakness, that our families cannot be healthy unless we are healthy too, and that we must break the silence that reinforces the myth that we are doing just fine. And in breaking that silence, one of the central issues we have to confront is the marginalization of black women and girls who are killed by the police. We all know the names of Eric Garner, of Mike Brown, of Tamir Rice, but how many of us know the names of Michelle Clouseau, Kayla Moore, Corrine Gaines, Tanisha Anderson, black women who were killed within weeks, sometimes within days of these men? We do not know that black women and girls, young as 7, as old as 93, are killed by the police in their living rooms, on the streets, in their cars, in their bedrooms, in front of their children, in front of their parents. They've been killed driving while black, shopping while black, being homeless while black, having a mental disability while black, driving in the Capitol with a baby strapped in the back seat of the car while black. What these women share with their brothers is a vulnerability to stereotypes that justify their death, that they were superhuman, mad women who put armed officers in fear of their lives with just a look on their face. What they do not share with their brothers is being seen as representatives of an injustice that places our entire community at risk. There are no marches for them, no slogans, no demands, no die-ins for women who lost their lives to police violence. This has got to change. So what intersectionality simply means, we've got to fight multiple battles for social justice at the same time. Yes, we have to fight state violence against women, whether straight or queer, elite, working class, cis, trans, immigrants, native-born, those with disabilities, those without, at the same time that we struggle against violence against our brothers and our sisters. Racial justice is not just for those who are first in line, but those who are last in line. I want to end by dedicating this award to a woman who inspired me. Her name is Vicky McAdory. Vicky was the auntie mama of India Beatty, a queer black woman killed by the police in 2015. Although Vicky survived her daughter's death, I believe she too was a casualty of that officer's bullet, suffering from the hidden toll that so many mothers of Say Her Name endure. Imagine the soul-destroying stress of losing a loved one, your baby, your daughter, and then imagine experiencing that grief in complete and utter obscurity. When I last talked to Vicky, she talked about what we should do if she were no longer with us, and we didn't like that talk. But she insisted that we promise to keep lifting up those women who fall between the cracks of our movement, whether allies are with us or not. Just a few hours after we hung up the phone, Vicky suffered a massive stroke and passed away. We all in Say Her Name experienced her death as a profound loss, the reflection of hidden costs of violence and injustice. Her death also binds us to the promise she extracted from us. In memorializing Vicky, we came across this quote that amplifies her spirit. She said at the Women's March, "My biggest fear would be not to march. My fear would be realizing I didn't put my all into something that is right, something that we were born with the right of having. How could I not?" she said. How could I not? It's become our mantra. When faced with the challenge of doing the hard work, sometimes the unpopular work, of saying what needs to be said, when we might want to just sit it out, might want to leave the heavy lifting to someone else. When those times visit us, it's time for us to channel Vicky McAdory and ask ourselves, how can we not? How can we not? Thank you.
Please welcome pioneering firefighter, co-founder of United Women Firefighters, and 2000 Celebrating Women honoree, Captain Brenda Berkman, to the stage.
Thank you. Such inspiring women to follow. I'm so honored to be up here. I'm starting a new fashion trend. We're returning to the idea that women wear hats. Today, I'm very proud to introduce firefighter Eniola Brown. I just want to mention, to give a little context to Eniola, that for the first time since I won my sex discrimination lawsuit in 1982, that opened the door. Yeah, I'm incredibly old, really old. For the first FDNY women firefighters, for the first time, New York City is not the worst major US city for hiring women firefighters. The FDNY now has 72 women firefighters, hold, out of a firefighting force of almost 11,000. So while 72 is certainly something to celebrate, you can see that the work of hiring and truly integrating women in the FDNY firefighting force is far from over. For over 30 years, the United Women Firefighters Organization has been offering training for women firefighter candidates to enable women to pass the entry-level firefighter exam and succeed in the Fire Academy. Beginning with our first UWF grant proposal that I drafted in the early 1990s, the New York Women's Foundation has helped provide the resources to support the candidate training, and more recently, the UWF organizational capacity building that has led to this slow but very important increase in the number of FDNY women. In the UWF training program, current women firefighters, many of them are here today. I don't know where you are. Could you stand? The women firefighters? Somewhere out there. Right up. They're at the table. Okay. Hey, there they are! Hey! Thank you, sisters. These women, and our current president, Serena Sirskal, who sits up here, they work hard to train and mentor the future generation of women. I want you to ask yourself honestly, who do you think of when you hear the word firefighter? A brave, strong, helping, heroic man. That stereotype is why having more women firefighters matters. Until girls and young women see more women firefighters, fewer of them will believe that they can be a firefighter or other historically male-identified occupations. They won't be encouraged to try for a job like firefighting, where they not only serve their communities, but they also get a decent wage with benefits and a pension. Who has that anymore? The New York Women Foundation support, your support, helps real women like Eniola not only achieve their personal dreams, but also expands the opportunities for all. Times have changed. When I worked in Eniola's firehouse in 1983, a group of male firefighters refused to even eat with me. But not enough has changed. Much work remains to be done. Eniola is going to describe for you the many obstacles she had to overcome to become a New York City firefighter today, both personal and institutional. She is the future, not only of the United Women Firefighters, but also of the whole fire service. She is the role model for your daughters and granddaughters, and yes, your sons and grandsons as well. Thank you for your support of the United Women Firefighters and the New York Women's Foundation. I am proud to introduce firefighter Eniola Brown of Engine Company 28. She's a lot taller than me.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's a pleasure to be here today to share my story with you. Back in 2012, I worked in the South Bronx, helping underprivileged and disadvantaged youth gain employment and advance their education. As a part of my work, I invited various city agencies to present career opportunities to the youth we served. When the New York City Fire Department presented, I was intrigued and thought, I could do that. I was 28 years old at the time, just under the cutoff age for applying for the test. On the day of the exam, I arrived at the crack of dawn with hundreds of other candidates. I noticed I was the only woman online. I was the only person of color online. Unfazed, I said to myself, I got this. The results came in, and I got a perfect score. I began training for the physical aspect of the job under the guidance and tough love of the United Women Firefighters. I was getting stronger, faster. I was starting to see my dream become a reality. I wanted to do more, to leave no doubt in anyone's mind that I was strong and powerful enough to be a part of New York's bravest. Then, wait for it, I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I discussed it. He encouraged me not to give up on my dream. 6 weeks after I had my beautiful son, I went back to training. I was in war mode. I reached a new level of discipline, one that would help me achieve the coveted title of New York's bravest. Still breastfeeding, still working in the South Bronx where I commuted every day from Staten Island. I attended every workout session the United Women Firefighters had to offer. Well, not every session, but most of them. During the workouts, something as simple as a jumping jack hurt. My breasts were painfully heavy, full of milk and leaking. I was a beat behind, a day late and $1 short. Strangely, my spirit didn't feel how my body felt. My spirit was fueled by the women of the United Women Firefighters, both the trainers and my fellow women candidates. They never took it easy on me though, never let me skip a drill or a push-up. No excuses, shut up and get it done. A person trapped in the back room of a house on fire doesn't care if you're breastfeeding. Get the job done. That good old tough love. As a woman, many interactions with the fire department can be discouraging. I remember calling the offices and hearing, "You're calling the wrong line." "No, sir, I'm calling to confirm my fire..." Click. There goes the dial tone again. I also remember reporting in for my physical exam, and a woman said to me, "You shouldn't be here. Leave the firefighting for the boys." I thought to myself, sorry, boo, I don't agree. And I didn't ask for your opinion. My final physical exam before entering Fire Academy was insanely tough. 96% of people fail on their first try, women and men alike. With that success rate, it was no surprise that the test is administered twice. It's a test where, for most women, their journey ends. You wear a 50-pound vest while climbing a stair mill for 8 minutes. I didn't pass the first time. I went back to the United Women Firefighters feeling defeated, like I too may be at the end of my journey. But I knew I had to keep going. One of the trainers said to me, "When you take your final test, don't get off the stairs. Don't give yourself that option. If you fall off, that's one thing, but don't get off, no matter what." For my second go-round, a number of candidates, all men and myself, nervously waited to be called, 3 at a time. "Candidate Eniola Brown, you're up." There was no turning back. Failure was not an option. I was strapped in and ready to go. The evaluators, along with the other candidates, weren't eyeing the men, even though they were just as likely to fail. You would have thought Tupac was in the room, the way all eyes were on me. And as a woman, all eyes are on you. They're not wondering if you'll fail, they're wondering when. I remember my infant at home, my husband, the youth I mentored, and the United Women Firefighters support. I had more than enough reasons to fight, to push through the pain. I was not giving up. Sweat was dripping off my face like a running faucet. I did not get off. When I saw that 8-minute mark, I knew my journey was not over. In fact, it was just beginning. I entered Fire Academy where I was one of 5 women out of 318 probationary firefighters. As a woman, we have to set our own expectations because there are people setting the bar really low and just waiting for us to fail every step of the way. As training at the academy, you're sent into a smokehouse. You actually have to inhale smoke, and you're taught how to do so without panicking. You, along with the rest of your squad, stay in the smokehouse for a while, or until somebody taps out. I was told right before we went in, you know women always tap out first. Knowing the expectations everyone had for me, because I'm a woman, gave me the motivation I needed to power through and persevere. I didn't tap out at all. I left that for one of the boys, and they didn't disappoint. In November 2016, I graduated Fire Academy, and I was assigned to Engine Company 28. I love my job. It is the best job in the world. I have job security, amazing health benefits, and a flexible work schedule that allows me to maintain a strong presence in my young son's life. I couldn't have done it without the strong women of the United Women Firefighters. Now, I pay it forward. I train women candidates, volunteer at events, and mentor candidates on their journey. I know that with the dedication of the United Women Firefighters and the New York Women's Foundation, we will continue to see an increase in the number of women who join our ranks as firefighters. This new mom was able to achieve her dreams, boobs leaking and all. I encourage all of you to do the same. Do not stop until your dreams become your reality. Thank you for being here today and listening to my story. Thank you, New York Women's Foundation, for giving me the opportunity to share my journey, and more importantly, for the generous and unwavering support of the United Women Firefighters, making impossibilities possible. Thank you. Now there's one more thing I want to do. Captain Berkman, can you come back out? I heard when you were honored in the Celebrating Women's Breakfast in 2000, the foundation wasn't doing these cool walking sticks. Well, you paved the way for me, so we thought you should have a walking stick to celebrate you.
Please welcome grantee partner, Restaurant Opportunities Center United, co-founder and co-director, Saru Jayaraman.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much to the New York Women's Foundation for everything that it does. Congratulations to the amazing Shiro honorees, Kim, Tarana, Lorie, everybody. I'm here to talk to you about something that is happening right now in New York, a fight for women's lives. The restaurant industry right now is the second largest and absolute fastest growing sector of the US economy, and yet is also the absolute lowest paying because of the money, power, and influence of a trade lobby called the National Restaurant Association, which represents the Fortune 500 chains. We call it the other NRA. It's been around, it turns out, since emancipation, when it first demanded the right to hire newly freed slaves, mostly black women at the time, and not pay them anything at all, and let them live on customer tips. And that idea that a tipped restaurant worker could earn nothing and live on tips was codified into law in 1938, which said, the minimum wage law, the first minimum wage law said, tipped workers get a $0 wage as long as tips bring them to the full minimum wage. We went from zero in 1938 to the whopping $2.13 an hour, which is the current federal minimum wage for tipped restaurant workers in the United States. 43 states, including New York State, perpetuate this legacy of slavery, allowing tipped workers to be paid less than the minimum wage and forcing them to live on tips. And the Restaurant Association has gotten away with this incredible boondoggle by arguing these are white guys working in fancy fine dining restaurants in Midtown Manhattan. They're making a ton of money in tips when in fact 70% of tipped workers in New York and nationally are, guess who? They are women. They are women working in IHOP and Applebee's and Olive Garden. They suffer from 3 times the poverty rate of the rest of the US workforce, and worst of all, they have the highest rates of sexual harassment of any industry, because when you're a woman living on tips, you have to tolerate whatever a customer does to you, however they touch you or treat you or talk to you, because the customer's always right. They feed your family, not your employer. And here's what's worse. Just a few days ago, we released a report after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of women who worked in the industry in their youth, because 1 in 2 American women starts their work life in restaurants. How many of you worked in restaurants at some point in your lifetime? Look around the room. This is how we learn what is acceptable and tolerable in the workplace, what is legal. This is how we are taught. We should show our bodies in order to make more money in tips. Managers tell women, dress more sexy, show more cleavage, show your breasts in order to make more money in tips. And that is how we learn to accept harassment later in life. There are 7 states that got rid of this system many, many years ago. They have higher restaurant sales per capita, including California, higher restaurant sales per capita, higher job growth in the industry, and half the rate of sexual harassment, because women in California and the 7 states get an actual wage from their boss with tips on top. They don't have to put up with everything from the customer to feed their families. That is what we need. We call it one fair wage. Pay these women an actual wage. And thanks to Me Too and Time's Up, thanks to Me Too, thanks to Tarana, thanks to Time's Up, Governor Cuomo has announced that he will consider making New York the 8th state in the union to eliminate the lower wage for tipped workers, which we appreciate. But we need to make it reality, because the Restaurant Association is fighting us hard. They have created a fake organization of mostly white male restaurant workers who are attacking the women who are standing up and saying, we need a wage, attacking them. And we had hearings a couple of weeks ago, and the white men surrounded the women and shouted at them, screamed at them while they were sharing their stories of sexual harassment. This is our David versus Goliath fight. This is women standing up to one of the most powerful trade lobbies in the United States, and we need your help. If you go to our website, onefairwage.org, and click on that pink button, you can let Governor Cuomo know that we need this. You can click on the blue button to let your favorite restaurant owner know we need this. And if you scroll down, further down on this page, you'll be able to come to an event. Join us May 21st. We have been working with dozens of celebrities, thanks to Me Too and Time's Up, who've come out with us. Many of them will be with us on May 21st. We hope you will join us. This is a very personal fight for me. I have 2 little girls, ages 5 and 8. This fight has meant a lot of sacrifice. I don't get to see them very much. And the NRA has attacked us so bad, they've put at times my little babies' pictures up on their attack websites. They have been after us for a very long time, trying to silence us. But I persist, we persist, because I will be darned if by the time my little girls grow up and work in the industry just like every one of us did as their first job, which I'd be proud of, because this is a job that should be considered a job with dignity. But I'll be darned if by the time they work in this industry, in high school, college, or graduate school or beyond, that they are told by their managers to show their breasts. I will not let that happen for any woman in America. We will fight, we will win. Let New York be the first state. Join us. Let us make every woman in America recognized as the professionals that they are. Thank you. I would now like to introduce one of my greatest heroes, President and CEO of the New York Women's Foundation, Ana Oliveira.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? So let's get it done, please. Let's get this done. There is enough power in this room and all of our connections, each of us where we stand. Let's get this done. Saru, we will get this done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So let me begin by actually thanking the Marriott staff, who this morning, and every time we come here, and I know every time others come here, are the invisible workers, because they do it, I think around 4 a.m. it begins or something like that, 3 a.m. And by the time we arrive, it's all set for us. Just like it is when we go to restaurants, when we work, we take our laundry someplace, when somebody parks our cars, when somebody is somehow supporting our lives, and their work, their dignity, their respect is so invisible to us. I know that individually we're very decent people, we're people that seek equality and justice, but collectively we need to change the systems, the regulations, the wages, the protections for safety, for dignity. We need to make our individual commitments in New York translate into systemic policies that protect everyone. So this morning, the foundation is very proud. You give us a lot. Our grantee partners, and I want to ask you to stand up, and I want to tell you, I don't know if you notice, but we have, multi-generational presence in our grantee partners, team here. And that is because there are some children, some babies that are here with their moms. And I want to thank them especially because it's a lot to manage to get here at 6 o'clock in the morning, to bring yourself, but also to bring your kids. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand and ask you again to thank them because they bring meaning. They are the ones that bring meaning to the work of any foundation. They are the ones that bring meaning to our gifts. So their gift is a gift that we ourselves cannot produce alone. So please stand up so we can actually properly thank you. And I also want to ask you to give yourselves a round of applause because both on the stage and here in our audience, you are our supporters, our donors, who create the possibility for their meaning, who create the means by which their vision, their passion, their knowledge can actually manifest itself and create a better world for all of us. So thank you so much for being here with the foundation. Over the years, we have had the opportunity to respond to urgency. And this is why the foundation has grown its grant making. Because we live in the now. Because we're not postponing creating a future in the future when we have no control over it. We are creating the world that we want to live in now. And that's why we have grown our grant making so that we can support much more collective action by our grantee partners and in the city of New York and the state of New York and with our other partners in the US. Unless New York City or New York State separate itself from the country, we still have to deal with what goes on in this country, right? It directly impacts us. So it's really important that we understand that local work has incredible national and global significance. This morning, our honorees are offering us an incredible set of gifts. The One Wage campaign, the Say Her Name, the Me Too movement. And the gift that they offer us is that we can transcend our individual tables this morning and see ourselves in one table together. One table together that echoes, that joins, and that works for One Wage, for Me Too, for Say Her Name. Each of us, sometimes, Kimberlé said, how can I not? And I'm going to say, how can I not and how can we? We can if we do it together. We can answer the question that we will be asking ourselves in about, some of us are already asking ourselves what happened. And we're going to be asking that 2 years from now again. And we're going to be asking that and we're going to be asking. And the question will be, where was I? What did I do? You're here at this breakfast. You're clearly people that believe and do collective action. So when the foundation took on the tagline of radical generosity, it was a very intentional tagline. We wanted the word radical because, first of all, everybody was afraid of radical. I'm very happy to tell you that it's more freely used, which is really good. People are taking on to it, which is a fantastic thing. Radical means unflinching. It means going to the roots, going to the systems, going to the memory that you heard this morning is so important. Going to understanding how we find ourselves in the historical moments that we are. And what we do. If we understand, then we can act. Generosity means we have the hope, but we act. Generosity is not a pledge, it's an action. And generosity means no stinginess. It means saying yes before saying no, yes. It means saying yes, practicing saying yes. A word of solidarity, a word of echoing and sharing the burdens that we heard from Kimberlé, from Rhanda, have been carried in the backs of Black women in this country. It means standing with and walking with. So today, I hope that you leave here understanding that there are so many opportunities for us, that we are being given the leadership, the content, the way forward. It is an incredibly difficult time in this country, but it's also an incredibly potential, powerful time in this country. And if it has taken sharp contrasts, the denuding of violence in all of its forms, economic, racial and ethnic, and gender-based, it will take our coalition, all of our coalitions, to eradicate gender, economic, and racial violence. So I'm hoping that as you finish your morning today, that you will not only engage more in what you're doing, but come up with all the opportunities that on a daily basis, micro and macro opportunities, we have to augment our voices and to get it done. Like Lorie Slutsky does, let's get the job done. Let's get the justice moving fast forward in a faster manner. So it is my pleasure to now welcome Yvonne Moore and Karen Choi, board members of the New York Women's Foundation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Choi, this is Yvonne Moore, and we are on the board of the New York Women's Foundation. And we are so grateful for all of you to be here today, because we know it's not easy getting up early in the morning and getting here at 7:30. So thank you all. So I hope you found this morning to be inspiring and moving. Every year, I shed tears at this event, and maybe some of you did today too. So Yvonne and I have the task, the important mission of asking you to give, and asking all of you to give and be radically generous, because that's what we need today. Every dollar that we raise here today goes towards our grantee partners, to those community leaders and those in our communities who are doing and working the hard fight on the ground, finding solutions for a better world for all of us. They are fighting for economic, social, racial, gender, for everything, for all justice for everyone. And so we are asking you to give and to be radically generous. And I am telling you why I give and why I'm giving and why I will continue to give. I am a child of immigrant parents. My parents came here around 50 years ago, and the first city they landed in was New York City. And so I am blessed and grateful to live in this great city, and I am honoring them by giving to the New York Women's Foundation. I also give because I'm a mother of 4 girls, 4 daughters. Woo! And we need to make a better, more equitable life for all our girls and women in this great city. Just yesterday, I was in a meeting with a Fortune 500 company There were 26 of us in that room. 25 were men. I was the only woman, and I was besides myself. And I just couldn't stand in there and say nothing. So I had to say, we need to make a change here. This is clearly not right, and it's unacceptable. And so we need to continue to make this change. And although we've come some way, we have a lot of progress that needs to be made. Yep. And I'm giving today for all of you and for all of our grantee partners, because we can make a better and more just and socially acceptable and more vibrant city for all of us. So that's why we're asking you to give. And as a board member and as part of the board, we challenge ourselves to raise $400,000 this year from our families and friends, and we actually beat that goal. And so here we are. We're challenging all of you to match the gifts that we've made and the gifts that we've raised. And we challenge all of you to be radically generous and to be part of the giving back to the city. And we challenge all of you to raise $400,000, because with all of us, there's 2,200 of you out there today, 2,200 women and men, and with all of us collectively, we're more powerful, and we can make a big difference in the city that we live in. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good morning. In 2016, community activist Ilhan Omar beat out a 42-year incumbent to become the first Somali American Muslim woman elected to state office in Minnesota. That's right. And she did it with old-fashioned community-based building and partnerships with amazing organizations like our former grantee partners, actually current grantee partners, New American Leaders and Vote, Run, Lead. During her campaign, Ilhan shared some simple yet profound wisdom. There is an urgency for people to be present. We've talked about this already. There's an urgency for people to be present. That's all she asked, is for folks to show up as you are. Whatever the maximum gift is that you can make is perfect. Because like Anna said, we are a collective of philanthropists, and there is power in numbers. Now, we take all forms of payment. Whether it fits inside the envelope, whatever fits inside the envelope on the table is in front of you is quite all right. But if by chance your gift is too big for the envelope, you can find me later, or Karen, and don't act like you can't find us in these dresses. You can find us later and the staff will make it fit into the envelope. I used to tell myself that I couldn't give my own maximum. So one day I gave my credit card to one of the foundation staff and asked them to charge a certain amount of money each month indefinitely. That was 3 years ago. Because what I was confident in is that partnering with the New York Women's Foundation and these amazing grantee partners behind me and in the audience with you, they could have accomplished the change that I wanted to see. So I'm asking you to show up today and every day, exactly as you are, give your maximum and partner with us. I want you to take one of the envelopes, make sure they can see. Who's working those lights? Make sure they can see. Grab an envelope, there's a pen. I want you to go ahead and work on your maximum. Go ahead and drop it in the box before you leave. And join me in radical generosity and help us achieve our $400,000 goal. This is a board goal, and so together we want to try to match that $400,000 today. And if you're new to the breakfast, welcome. Thank you so much. We also have these Let's Keep in Touch cards on the table. So if you would like to stay in touch, show up, be present, fill out the card, and also drop that in the box. We have multiple ways in which you can be involved. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the program.
Please welcome founder and executive director of Girls for Gender Equity and 2016 Celebrating Award recipient, Joanne Smith.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Anna for bestowing upon me this honor. To honor Tarana Burke. She is my sister, my comrade, my freedom fighter, warrior, friend. She's funny, she's unapologetic, and I just love her. I'm glad that I was the one to be able to give her this honor. 3 years ago today, I stand on this stage, it feels like it's coming full circle, because I stood on this stage and we declared with the first Latino woman speaker of New York City that cis and trans girls of color would be part of the racial and gender justice movement, that we would not leave them behind. And we did so because of the work that we did with Dr. Kimberlé Crenshaw in Why We Can't Wait. The courageous work that challenged the narrative about boys of color being endangered species and girls of color being okay. 1 year ago today, Anna stood here and declared that this same Young Women's Initiative was replicated nationally in 7 other cities. Today, we stand here in celebration and honor and full backing of the Boogie Down Bronx native, civil rights leader, senior director at Girls for Gender Equity, and founder of the Me Too movement, Tarana Burke. Tarana calls Me Too a call and response. I experienced it as a reconciling of being a survivor, emerging triumphant. I, like you, am forever grateful for this part of the collective global healing narrative. If you're able, by a show of hands, how many people have heard or read a Me Too story in community or on social media? How many? Look around. Keep your hands up if you can. Look around. We're at a critical mass. It's a tipping point. And this movement is joined by our global community. You can actually witness it on Google Me Too. Has anybody visited that site, Google Me Too? Visit that site. It tracks the trends of Me Too searches worldwide and lets you know where the most hits have happened worldwide. This movement is ancestral. Yes, we stand on the shoulders of Rosa Parks within this gender-based violence movement. And we also stand on the shoulders of our great-grandparents whose stories are untold about sexual violence. We've prepared as a gender-based violence community, but today all this resonance comes from a Black woman who cut her teeth as a youth organizer in Alabama. Her life's work is committed to healing all survivors while centering Black girls and women impacted by sexual violence. Tarana understands that this work is urgent. Due to her own survivor story, yes, and more so because the number of girls that she protected and freed from sexual violence while in Alabama and in Philadelphia, leading Just Be Inc. To even now, as she leads Mute Art Kelly as part of the Me Too movement, she is walking in her purpose. As Tarana says, you never know when and where you're going to gain visibility for the work that you're doing. And I'm speaking to the organizers on the ground now, the young women who are doing the work, and it feels like it's tireless, it's thankless. You're not up here on the stage, you're not getting the accolades. Understand that your time is coming. She is a testament to when preparation meets opportunity. When it comes to the liberation of Black girls and women, Tarana is on the right side of justice. When it comes to creating a healing path for all survivors of sexual violence, Tarana is on the right side of justice. And when it comes to lifting up the leadership and recognizing the work that she has led from the underbelly of gender-based violence, today the New York Women's Foundation is on the right side of justice. Tarana has seared into my soul what I know to be true. Trust the vision and the leadership of Black women. Yes, you can clap for yourselves. You can clap for that. Receiving a Celebrating Women Award in recognition of her tremendous leadership as a civil rights activist, advocate, founder of Me Too movement, as a mom, as a friend, as a daughter, as a survivor and also receiving a City Council citation from New York City Council member Deborah Rose for outstanding achievements and exemplary service to her community. Please welcome to the stage the one and only Tarana Burke.
Woo, hello. Morning. Y'all are nice. Get up this early in the morning. I mean, well, I tell a lot of stories because I know. That's just the way I do. It's the way I get points across. So I'm gonna tell you a story. When I was a little girl, about 8 or 9 years old, I was at a family outing. My grandfather used to gather us in his van and take us upstate to just be outside and be in the fresh air, right? I adored my grandfather. And so we were out, I forgot the name of this park, New Berkshire Park. Anyway, it's not relevant. But we were out in this park, and all of my cousins were running around and playing, and my uncles were cooking, and my aunties and my mom were playing cards and dancing around and whatnot. And at some point, we joined another group of families that were there, and they were organizing games for the kids to play. So my younger cousin and I entered the three-legged race. When they tie your leg together and you have to run along at the same time. And so we were gonna race these other teams. Now, I ran track from 6 years old through college, okay? Very competitive, very competitive. I did not lose races. And, they started us off with a practice because everybody wasn't used to it. So they tied my cousin and I together, and we hopped along trying to do this race, and it became clear to me that my cousin wasn't as competitive as I was. She was slower than me, she kept falling, and she was so uncoordinated and just slow. And so when the practice run was done, I said to my granddaddy, I'm not doing this race, because we're gonna lose. And for all of you Scandal fans, this is where I got my version of Twice as Hard. My granddaddy said to me, and my granddaddy is from St. Kitts, the Caribbean. And yes, so some of you who have Caribbean upbringing understand what's about to happen. My grandfather said, you do not quit once you've committed to something. That is something that we don't do. You made a decision, and if there's no other reason besides the fear of losing, you don't quit, you stay. Done. He used to end his sentences that way, done. He said, number 2, that is your family. You don't leave your family behind. Done. And 3, what do you have that she doesn't have? And I stood there thinking, a lot of things. He said, you have speed and agility? Okay. But what does she have? Did you ask her? Do you know? We don't operate like that. And one of his very famous things that he said all the time, that's not African. We were also Pan-Africanist family, so. Yeah, that was the admonishment. That's not African. He said, we lift as we climb. We don't leave anyone behind because we're all necessary. Why don't you teach her what she needs to win instead of giving up? We don't give up on each other because that's what they're waiting for you to do. There was always the part about they, right? He said, but they don't know that we are each other's secret weapon. It was quite a rousing speech. So I took my cousin to the side and I told her we're gonna hop like bunnies together, the way we do when we double dutch, when we get in the rope together. And she understood that, right? She could get that. So we hopped around a few times to practice, and then we lined up and we were ready to run the race. We came in 3rd out of 4. And the last team that we beat was a set of twins that were about 6 years our junior. It was one of the few times in my life that I competed and didn't win in sports. But we won't go to the other parts. But my cousin and I were elated. We laughed and we high-fived, and then my granddaddy and my uncles came around and they made up these fake trophies out of like some branches and leaves, and they told us they were proud of us. And on the ride home, my granddaddy asked me if I was sorry that I lost. And I said, no, it was fun, granddaddy, and it made my cousin happy. You know, and he said, that's who we are. We lift as we climb. I am here because somebody, many somebodies, lifted me without even knowing me. So many women gave me shoulders to stand on, like Joanne. Where'd you go? Oh, there she is. Who is my partner in crime. Not real crime. And whose deep belief in the power of Black women's leadership is so strong that she made a space for me in Girls for Gender Equity as a thought partner and a leader, and has created a space for me to step into the role that I am in now. And Sister Kimberlé Crenshaw, who I'm just humbled to share the stage with, you gave the world language to understand a woman like me, Black and woman and survivor and leader. And I am indebted to you for your steadfast commitment to the recognition of our worthiness and the elevation of our visibility. And yes. And women like my mentor, Fire Rose Touré. Y'all know Fire Rose? Some of y'all may know her as Rose Sanders, fierce attorney and warrior in Selma, Alabama, who I call my other mother, who raised me to be an organizer, and we call ourselves the Daughters of Rose. And she taught me early on that everyone is necessary, and a good organizer can help them understand how. I hope that in all of this talking I've been doing lately that you all understand that we are all necessary in this work. No one can be left behind because we all have a role to play. And we won't always win, and sometimes it will feel like bunny hopping in a three-legged race. But win or lose, we won't ever do it alone. I need to thank you for your support in this moment. This has been an extraordinary 6 months. Believe it or not. 6 months in a long history of work and dedication and commitment and just not knowing. You just don't know. So many of us do this work. We get up every day not knowing, but still doing and still moving forward. Who knew? One of the biggest lessons for me right now is realizing that as much as I tried to pour into young people and into the women and girls I worked with, I was not dreaming big enough. I didn't think this was possible because I couldn't see it. We have to dream bigger. We have to, and it's scary. Another thing my granddaddy used to always say is that it's not courage if you're not scared. It's scary to dream big. But if we do that, if we dream big together, look where we can end up. I don't take the credit for this moment at all. At all. Because I know that there are so many other women and men and people in general who are on the ground right now doing what I did. And any one of us could be plucked at any moment for a moment like this. There's so much work that's happening that is ignored. So much work that's happening that's under-resourced. I used to call it the paycheck to paycheck movement. It's true. Because I was able to do the work, my girlfriend and I were doing this together, and we had opposite pay periods. And she got paid one, that means that every Friday somebody had a check. And that's how we survived. When I didn't have it, she had it. When we had to go to, when people started asking us to send us our curriculum in other states, and they wanted to know how to bring this healing work to their community, and we had to go in Staples, and we wanted to be really classy and had to figure out, had to make that decision we all make at some point, glossy or matte. You're like, I don't want to get these 25-cent folders that look like first day of school. I'm gonna pay this extra $10 and get these glossy ones so I can be a little classy. You know, we've all struggled. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the acknowledgement, but I'm grateful that I can bring everybody with me. And I hope that when people see me in all the places that you've seen me recently, that you know that I bring everybody with me. I have no use for this if I'm here alone. It doesn't serve me if I'm doing it by myself. So, I want to thank you all for your support and love and shout outs and prayers. I need and appreciate them all. And I hope you walk away knowing. I want to thank the New York Women's Foundation. Your support is unbelievably generous, and I look forward to making history with you all. And yeah, we're going to make some history. We're not going to leave this moment without turning it over. That's not what we do. I think the people messed up. I think about this all the time. Every time I get one of these fancy things people have me come into, and I think, y'all don't know me, huh? Y'all gonna figure it out. But anyway, thank you very much. I'm deeply honored and deeply humbled. Thank you.
Please welcome back Ana Oliveira and the Foundation's honorary chair and co-founder of Level Forward, Abigail Disney.
So we are going to make history right now together. We are going to meet Tarana in the dreaming big, meet Tarana in being able to bring everybody with her. We are very proud to announce that we're creating a fund to support the Me Too movement. Yes, we want to ensure that we do not just live a moment when we talk about gender-based violence. We want to ensure that we take this moment and we build the sustainability. We build the ability of Tarana and all the hundreds and thousands of other organizers and women who are working in this. And we want to do in a resourced manner. We are very mindful at the New York Women's Foundation that 12 years ago, Me Too was created by Tarana. We're a little late coming to this, and we want to say that. But better late than never, don't you think? So, we're seeding the fund because of our generous, visionary, radically generous donors with a $1 million, but our minimum goal on a yearly base is $2 million plus. Because Tarana Burke does not need to be writing proposals. Tarana Burke does not need to come to foundations and pitch the reason for her to be supported and for all the other women that are part of the Me Too movement to be supported. We see you, Tarana. We proudly work under your leadership. I want you to know that in this fund, it's a fund that is centered, it's a shared authority between Tarana Burke and the New York Women's Foundation. That is really important for you to understand that when I talked about our grantee leaders give us purpose, that's what we're doing. Philanthropy has enormous power, but we are at our best when we understand the limitations of our power and when we share the best that we can do together. So along with you, we want to stand with Tarana and with all the other women in the movement to create that future, that big future now. We want to make sure that just as 3 years ago we did with following Joanne Smith's leadership and supported the Young Women's Initiative that now is so many parts of the country, that we support Tarana's Burke leadership today in that incredible manner and beyond in the next 5, 10, however many years it will take to eradicate gender and racial-based violence.
Okay, so the cat's out of the bag. Whew. It was very hard to hold that. I am so excited. Listen, I don't have a lot to say because I just said a whole bunch of stuff, except that I often think about, it was a paycheck to paycheck movement. That's true. And I know so many other women like me who are funding this work out of their back pockets. And, you know, we got a small grant, couple of small grants when we were first starting out, and they were like, $5,000 might as well have been $500,000. And so I know the power of seeding people early, and I think about what would have happened if we were fully funded 12 years ago. What would have happened if somebody had believed in this work and put resources behind that belief? And so again, I've said 100 times, it's not enough for me to be celebrated if you're not going to interrogate the reasons why you know me. The reason why you know me is because I'm committed to ending sexual violence. And I'm committed to finding resources for people to heal, not just as individuals, but as communities. And so this fund will be the first step in a lot of work that we're doing to do just that. It's not the Me Too. Listen, I am very clear. I know some people are up to their ears with the Me Too movement. It's fine. I'm very clear that we are just a blip in a larger movement that has been existing. I am always the person to push back around how do we turn this moment into a movement. This is one moment in a continuous movement. We have been at this work for a long time. And this moment couldn't have happened if people didn't support our movement, and there's no way that I could come out of this moment without using the resources that I have gathered to support other people. And so I am terribly excited. I'm excited our work will be supported, but I am even more excited that we get to support other folks who don't, and not have to make them jump through hoops. Y'all know what I mean. You know what I mean? Because it's not just Tarana that shouldn't have to write grants. You know, absolutely. You shouldn't have to do, you know, everything in triplicate and 5,000 copies to get $2,000. But I won't go there today. It's a joyous occasion. It's a joyous occasion, and you know, I struggle sometimes with all of this, like, you know, come here, do this, be that, be visible person. But I'm gonna tell you when it's coming in handy, because so far we've gotten the support of those women in Hollywood that people keep saying, why you keep hanging out with those women in Hollywood? Well, Gabrielle Union and Salma Hayek and Ashley Judd and Alyssa Milano and Michelle Williams, Miss J, I hope I'm not missing anybody, Mira Savino have all made commitments to supporting this fund. And we'll be putting that out in the next couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that you all will help us support this fund. We have $1 million seeded. We need to raise another $1 million. So I'm looking forward to all of that generosity coming this way. Thank you so much.
So, Tarana, I am really humbled to share this stage with you. I have to say, persistence. Oh my God, vision, tenacity. We wouldn't be standing here without you. I wouldn't be standing here in ways you can't imagine, and I know a million women must have said that to you. All the women you didn't know, you never met, that you helped. I'm thanking you for them.
Thank you.
Yes. And if anybody is tired of the Me Too movement, they deserve it. And you know you're somewhere when Roman Polanski has an insult for you.
How about that?
You have arrived. So all across the country, women are standing up for change in ways that we have never seen before. This is a historic moment of opportunity, but 4% of philanthropic dollars still go to women and girls. 4%. I want to say that again. Half the population does not get that kind of short shrift by accident. The barriers to our equality are deep and stubborn. Sometimes they're unconscious. Sometimes they are very, very premeditated. And you are all here this morning because you believe that no matter how deep and how stubborn those dynamics, you will not stop until we change them. So to use a turn of phrase that we're all familiar with, me too, Tarana too, Anna too. So a funny thing happened last year, as you know, about 6 months ago. I don't know if you've heard this, and I'm sorry if I'm breaking you news you haven't heard yet, but apparently Harvey Weinstein, not a very nice guy. And yet, for some reason, he was having a lot of success. Go figure. And as it turns out, other people weren't very nice guys, too, in the film business. And it turns out that the films they were making were also not very nice to us. I'm sure it's a coincidence. Did you know that the average crowd scene in a Hollywood film is over 80% male? A crowd scene. 70% of speaking parts are male. And when a woman is on screen, 40% of the time, scantily clad. Now, I like to be scantily clad as much as the next lady. I don't know how I'm supposed to get any work done when I'm scantily clad 40% of the time. In fact, women are in general women are either sexual or marginal in our films. They are almost always white, thin, young, cisgendered, and able-bodied. And actually, while I'm thinking of it, I want to call out two women who haven't been mentioned yet who need a call out because they're fantastic. Stephanie Fain and Maria Miccioni are our two interpreters, ASL interpreters today. Thank you. On screen, when women are women of color, they are either exploited or invisible. When they are not cisgendered, they are either ridiculed or subjected to violence. And when they are disabled, they are just plain not there. The moral of this story is if you are a hateful and violent person, it turns out that the work you create will be hateful and violent too. And when your work is making the content that the whole world looks to make sense of itself, your fictions will generate some really unpleasant realities. One thing is undeniable now that Tarana and a lot of very brave women have put their foot down and said time is up. It matters who speaks because it matters what we believe. And it matters what we believe because belief generates reality, not the other way around. And if you doubt me, I want you to look at the last election. The short-sightedness, the lowered expectations, the narrowed opportunities, the persistent appeal to violence generated by the constant waves of deprecation, indignity, and downright unkindness we and so many others experience in media don't just prejudice the powerful people who seek to hurt us. In fact, they do something worse. They take hold inside of each and every one of us. They hold us back. They turn us against each other. They create in us a hesitancy about our own capacities that is debilitating and, frankly, a waste of all of our time and talents. So last year, Ana Oliveira came to me with a crazy idea, Adrienne Becker and Killer Films, and it was so ballsy and so out of its mind genius that I had to sign up. So I have partnered up with Killer Content and its badass leader, Adrienne Becker, to launch an initiative called Level Forward. So we were gonna buy the Weinstein Company. Funny story, it turns out we're too smart for that. In fact, we're gonna do something better. We are launching a new studio committed to using storytelling and entertainment to advance the ideas and images and economic transformation that you and all have all been dreaming of and waiting for. So what if there were a studio committed to interrupting and inverting the stereotypes that have created the toxic environment that we all currently navigate? What if that studio took profits from those projects, and by the way, those projects are pretty commercial, and turned them into correcting that pathetic 4%? So to make it concrete, what if there were a studio that made a film like Wonder Woman, and took 10% or so of that $1 billion gross and put it into the work of fighting discrimination and violence against women and girls? What if the structure, the output, the deployment of the proceeds of that studio balanced profit and purpose in everything it did and reflected that belief that we all share, that time is up for patriarchy, that it is high time women should be able to walk the world without fear of violence, and that our girls should not have to navigate a world full of insult and exploitation? That studio is our studio, and it's called Level Forward, because what if is over. Hashtag that. What if is over. So today, I'm happily announcing that Level Forward will be supporting the New York Women's Foundation Fund because we can end what if we just have the courage to do it. So Anna, Adrian, Tarana, thanks for the crazy, stupid, weird ideas. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Abby. Oh my God. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Talking about getting the job done, right? So life sometimes gives us these enormous opportunities to show the world how connected we are, how indeed, as Tarana said, it's a very big movement. But it's so important to understand how these things are created, how these things come to the surface. So it is with enormous happiness and honor that I want to bring to stage somebody that you know. She was here with us last year and has done enormous things in this short period of 12 months, many of them related to what we're talking about. So please welcome, the woman has been spearheading Time's Up in the world, Tchen.
So I was unexpected. I was actually on a plane to come here last night from Chicago when Anna called me about this fund, and I said, well, you know, I'm going to be in New York tomorrow morning, so here I am. I'll be very brief. On behalf of Time's Up, we are so thrilled about this announcement today. You know, in the last 6 months, the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund has received 2,500 requests for help, for legal assistance. 2/3 of those people who have come forward have self-identified as low income. These are people who work in hotels, who work in fast food restaurants, who work, you know, as janitors late at night alone, who are home health care workers who don't have support. We're providing legal support, but they need so much more, as Tarana knows. They need social services, they need counseling, they need just to be supported. And it's important not just for them, but to combat sexual harassment in the workplace, because we also know that 3 out of 4 victims of sexual harassment do not report because they don't have support and they don't feel brave and they don't have it. And the most important thing that's happened to me in the last 6 months since we did that is Maylin DeVoe, who was a hotel cook who was raped. After she reported it, she was fired. She came to the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund. We got her a lawyer, and what she told the Washington Post was, she said, now I feel brave. And that's what we need to do. We want every victim of gender-based violence to have the resources to feel brave, to come forward. It is the only way we will make this stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we need to take a photo of all of you.
Oh, come back.
Just 1 second. Thank you. So, Kwanzaa Butler, Janet Riccio, please join us as we get ready to conclude our program. Board co-chairs.
Yeah, on behalf of the board and the staff of the New York Women's Foundation, we want to thank all of you for staying a little later, for extraordinariness, for your support and your radical generosity.
We will see you here next year, right here, for the 32nd Celebrating Women Breakfast in May 2019. Have a great day, and thank you.
Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming Legacy Women back on stage to close our show.
Oh God, hold on.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Catalina rompe en paliza, Catalina corre en paliza. Ay, vamos a abaratar, vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Tarana, Burke va a abaratar, Kimberlé va a abaratar, las mujeres va a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Kimberlé, Crenshaw va a abaratar, vamos a abaratar también, autos la mujer va a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Lorie, Slutsky va a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Rompe las cadenas. Corre, abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Catalina corre en paliza.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Rompe las cadenas.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Catalina corre en paliza.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, vamos a abaratar.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Y rompe las cadenas.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, rompe las cadenas.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Y vamos a abaratar.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, vamos a abaratar.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, corren para atrás.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, corren los lorieros.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, corren dos mujeres.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, vamos a abaratar.
Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay, vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar. Vamos a abaratar.
Vamos a abaratar, lele, vamos a abaratar, lela, vamos a abaratar. Catalina rompe en paliza.
Ay. Yo vengo de lejos y no vuelvo para atrás. Mis cadenas se rompieron y no tengo capataz.